Macau is a city integrating the East and West culture. It is a city with diversified ethnics, also known as the Eastern Monte Carlo. The achievements of this dynamic city, with the distinctive blend of the East and West, can be dated back to more than 450 years ago. Macau is located at the western bank of the Pearl River Delta. It is made up of the Macau Peninsula and the islands Taipa and Kolowan. Macau is also known as the Oyster Port. From the very beginning, Macau was known as Shangshan Bay. It was originally one of the isolated islands of the southern Shangshan County. It was not adjoined to mainland China in ancient times. Due to silt accumulation in Xizang, the alluvial deposits formed a dike between Macau and the mainland, consequently forming a geographical connection between Macau and mainland China. Macau thus became a part of the mainland, growing alongside her in cultural prosperity until the 16th century. 1557 was an important year in the history of Macau. This year marked the arrival of the Portuguese people, signifying the growth of Western culture in Macau. Aside from the arrival of the Portuguese, there were also a number of Catholic missionaries who came to carry out their missionary work in the city. In order to have a further understanding of the Catholic Church of the past 4 centuries in Macau, one needs to begin with the churches of the city. More than 450 years ago, every religious institute that wished to preach in Macau had to first decide on the location to erect a church. During the early times, churches were simply built of wood, but they were too weak to stand storm and fire. However, with the perseverance of the missionaries, they reconstructed the churches once they were destroyed, enabling the well-maintenance of the churches in Macau. Therefore, every single church in Macau embraces the history of the growth of both the Catholic Church and the city. They are also an integration of art and culture from the East and West for more than 450 years ago. St. Lazarus Church was also known as the Lapis Temple or Lapis Monastery. According to historical records, the church was consecrated in 1568. Yet before that, Bishop Belchor Carneiro Leitão established the Lapis home here. He also built a small chapel nearby, which was the former existence of St. Lazarus Church. Since the patron of the church was Our Lady of Hope, people thought that being named Leper was degrading. Thus, the church was then named as the Church of Our Lady of Hope. At present, a stone cross is situated in front of the church, and underneath it is a stone with carved inscription in Portuguese saying, "The Cross of Hope, erected in 1637. This provided the historical evidence of the church. The present facade of St. Lazarus Church was established after the restoration in 1886. In 1749, the Qing dynasty prohibited all Catholic missionary activities. Therefore, all churches were suppressed. Since the Lazarus Church was situated in the Portuguese region, the church was not closed, and hence it became the only Chinese-speaking church in Macau. All Chinese Catholics moved to live nearby the church. The area in which they lived was called Conversion Yard, which means converted to the Catholic religion through baptism. Aside from residential houses, there were also schools established in the Conversion Yard, including St. Lazarus Church and Catholic Action School, established in 1933 and 1939 respectively. In 1979, the 2 schools merged to form the St. Joseph's Secondary School. It has been run by the diocese until now. Besides the Lapis home and the school, on the right of St. Lazarus Church was situated a clinic called the Asilo de San José. The clinic was founded by St. Lazarus Church. It was under the management of the board of the Asilo de San José. The initial location of the clinic was the current Rua Eduardo Marques. At the northern gate of the St. Lazarus Church, it was relocated to the current venue in 1895. The objective of the clinic was to provide medical services to the faithful and to offer funeral services to the deceased. During the Second World War, the board of the clinic extended their services to all the citizens in Macau, irrespective of their belief and faith. The Sisters of the Precious Blood were invited to manage the clinic in 1944 until 1997. On the 23rd of January 1576, Pope Gregory XIII of the Roman Catholic Church declared Macau as a Catholic diocese. Macau thus became the first diocese in the Far East region. During the early establishment, the coverage of the Macau diocese included China, Japan, Annan, and the islands along the Southeast Asia. Since the establishment, St. Catherine of Siena and St. Francis Xavier have become the patron saints of the Macau diocese. It was to proclaim the uniqueness of the Macau missionaries. That is, in addition to preaching the good news of Christ, the diocese also aimed to promote scientific exchange and honor virtues. Therefore, science and virtue became the motto of the diocese. At that time, Bishop Baljo Carneiro Leitão was appointed the acting bishop of Macau. St. Lazarus Church was used as the cathedral. Later on, the cathedral was moved to the present-day Sé Cathedral. Next to it is the Episcopal Office of the Macau Diocese, which is the central administration of Macau's Catholic Church. The cathedral was built approximately in 1622 as an offer to the birth of Holy Mary. In 1835, it was ruined by a typhoon. When the maintenance work were undergoing in the cathedral, the Rosary Church took its part to perform all religious activities. From 1845 to 1850, Bishop Geronimo José de Mata took up the responsibility of rebuilding the church. He invited a Macanese, Tomás de Aquino, to design the building. During that time, Bishop Geronimo José de Mata had given lots of opinions about the construction. The church was blessed and opened in 1850. At the beginning of the 20th century, a larger scale of maintenance work had taken place in the church. In 1938, Bishop José de Costa hosted a grand blessing ceremony after the renovation of the church. Influenced by the church, the streets surrounding it were also named after Sé Cathedral. For example, Largo do Sé and Travessa do Sé. This demonstrated the gradual integration of the Catholic Church into the life of the people in Macau. At the foot of the cathedral, there is a valuable building, Secretaria Notarial. It is located at the Leal Senado Square and was founded by Bishop Baljo Carneiro Leitão in 1569. Upon the establishment of the Secretaria Notarial, a variety of charity services were provided to the citizens. These included the building of hospitals, nurseries, lepers' homes, elderly homes, orphanages, cemeteries and churches, offering help to the people in need. Not far from the Secretaria Notarial, there is another ancient church, the Rosary Church. It was originally named St. Dominic's Church, also known as the Wooden Church or the Church of Our Lady of Rosary. It is located at the St. Dominic's Square. In July 1587, the Dominicans planned to construct the Convent of Our Lady of Rosary in Macau to be used as the headquarters for their missionary activities in China. Then, they used the wood as the infrastructure and the wooden boards as the shield to build a wooden church at the square near the St. Dominic's Market. So people called it the Wooden Church, and the name has been adopted until today. The Rosary Church, other than being used as a convent, was also used as the Macau Police Headquarters in 1868. The original style of the Rosary Church was of European architecture. It underwent a large-scale reconstruction in 1828 in order to create an outstanding religious style. According to the documents in 1874, the Rosary Church, possessing the Baroque Filipino-style architecture, is one of the churches with the highest artistic value in the city. The church has a colorful interior with the statue of Our Lady with the Child Jesus being honored at the main altar. Hence, it is also called Our Lady of Rosary Church. There are numerous art pieces, including paintings and sculptures. At present, the loft of the church is used as a mini museum, treasuring nearly 300 religious art pieces. These precious antiques exhibit the development of the history of the Catholic Church in the Asian region. Amongst them, there are innumerable exquisite statues created by the craftsmen in Africa, India, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Macau. Another distinguished feature of the church is the procession of Our Lady of Fatima. In 1929, with the permission of the Pope, on the 13th of May every year, the Catholics in Macau participate in the annual procession of Our Lady of Fatima. The procession starts from this church. Since the church is located at the center of the city, it becomes a popular tourist attraction. The procession of Our Lady of Fatima has attracted many citizens and tourists to come and watch. This is also a great event for photographers. St. Augustine Church is one of the most ancient churches in Macau. It was founded in 1588 and was named after the patron St. Augustine. There is a seminary adjoined to the church for carrying out preaching and research work. As English was used as their medium of preaching, St. Augustine Church was the only church serving the English speakers in Macau. St. Augustine Church is also called the Dragon Beard Temple. It is situated at the St. Augustine Square. During its early establishment, both the church and the seminary were primitively constructed, only covered by sunflower leaves. Watching from afar, it was like a dragon with long beard. Therefore, the Chinese gave it the name Dragon Beard Temple. Later on, the Macau government granted the Association of the Passion of the Lord, the Good Jesus, the right to manage the church. The requisite was to renovate the premise as well as to be responsible for the regular maintenance fee of the church. The fund raised by the association members enabled the renovation and the construction of a bell tower with a timepiece. The bell of the Church of the St. Francis Missionary and a pulpit was also installed in the church. The original design of the church is still maintained until today. A statue of Jesus carrying the cross is being honored on the main altar. On the Saturday before the first Sunday of Lent every year, there will be a procession of this statue from St. Augustine Church to the cathedral, and the statue will be returned to the church on the following day. The event is organized by the members of the Association of the Passion of the Lord, the Good Jesus. This procession has been held for many years, but no one knows when it first took place. And minutes from a meeting held in 1851 had already recorded such a procession. This religious activity does not only attract the participation of the faithful in Macau. Many Catholics from Hong Kong have also traveled here to take part in this event. It has also attracted a number of tourists. Opposite to St. Augustine Church is the St. Joseph Seminary and Chapel. The chapel inside the seminary was erected in 1758. The church is built in the shape of a cross. The huge dome-shaped roof of the church is the most distinguished feature, which is typical in the Baroque-styled architecture. The walls in the church contain a number of gravestones. The relics of the wrist bones of St. Francis Xavier were honored in the church. They were brought from Goa to Macau in 1619. The church is part of the St. Joseph Seminary. It was restored in 1903 and 1953, and the latest restoration was carried out in 1999. During the early institution of the St. Joseph Seminary founded by the Jesuits, it was considered as a branch of the St. Paul's College, which aimed at training Chinese missionaries. So the Chinese people called it the Small St. Paul's College, and the original St. Paul's College was called the Great St. Paul's College. In 1835, the St. Paul's College was burned and destroyed by thunder, so the St. Joseph Seminary became the only higher educational institute in Macau. The seminary experienced 7 different ownerships, and the seminary had been managed by the diocesan priest and the congregation of the mission. St. Joseph's Church is most renowned for its magnificent facade among the churches in Macau. The balcony in the church was supported by 4 grand decorative columns with over 200 years of history. It can hold hundreds of people for prayer. Beside the columns, there are several ropes connecting to the bell tower. Inside the bell tower is a huge bell molded in 1796. At the back of the church, there is an ancient and distinguished tree. The tree measures 11 meters in diameter and has been standing erect for centuries. In 1951, a Jesuit missionary, Father Luis Ruiz Suarez, founded the Caritas Macau, which is a social service organization. The objective of the Caritas Macau is to provide various kinds of charity services, such as building nurseries, orphanages, elderly homes, clinics, homes for the disabled, and youth centers. Their services were extended to every corner in Macau. In 1983, Caritas Macau became a member of the International Caritas and was recognized by the Macau government as one of the diocesan organizations in Macau. According to a lecturer in the Faculty of Architecture of the University of Hong Kong, Hugo Brunt, St. Lawrence Church already existed between the years 1600 and 1605, and it had a very unique style. In 1618, a new chapel, Our Lady of the Sick, was built inside the church. The St. Lawrence Church was initially built by residents in that church's area to be dedicated to St. Lawrence. It was later on taken over by the diocesan priest. It was said that there was a primary school near the church. The school was managed by the city council at that time. According to Hugo Brunt, the blueprints of St. Lawrence Church were done by a very talented local citizen who was very familiar with architecture. Therefore, the church was so different from the other churches in Macau. Both the size and structure of the church were in line with the churches in Western Europe. A rather distinguished feature of this church is that it has no traverses, and it has integrated the culture of art of the East and West. Between 1801 and 1803, St. Lawrence Church was under renovation. During these 2 years, St. Joseph's Seminary replaced St. Lawrence Church to carry out religious activities. From 1844 to 1846, the church was renovated once again, and St. Augustine Church replaced St. Lawrence Church this time to hold religious events. The latest renovation of the church was held in 1994. Besides, due to damages done by typhoon, the church was reconstructed twice, and the last time was in 1854. There is a cross erected at the foreground of the church, on which was inscribed year 1811, and it was believed that it was the location of a graveyard. Walking alongside the Praia Grande and the Praia do Bombardo, one will find the Ama Temple, the place where the Chinese people worship the goddess of the sea. Going along the shore northward is another ancient church in Macau, the St. Anthony's Church. When the church was under restoration in 1930, a stone was found carved with the following words. The church was constructed in 1638, destroyed by fire in 1809, and was reconstructed in 1810, destroyed again by fire in 1874, and was restored again in 1875. St. Anthony is considered the patron saint of marriage. Therefore, many Catholics choose to hold their wedding ceremonies in this church. St. Anthony's Church has maintained a close relation with the community. An elderly home is situated near the church, providing services to the elderly people, like organizing all kinds of activity, including classes like handicraft, calligraphy, folk dance, and drama. It also provides regular body checkup and counseling services for the elderly. In order to follow the footsteps of St. Anthony, the church distributes rice to the poor every month. This enables it not only to evangelize, but to spread the love of God to the different classes in society. The chapel of Our Lady of Gia is located on the Gia Lighthouse. It was only known that the chapel was built before 1622. The exact date is still a mystery. In 1996, many wall paintings were found inside the church. These wall paintings included both the Western religious pictures as well as Chinese paintings, exhibiting a unique style of the Eastern and Western art culture. Moreover, there is a stone at the entrance of the church with the inscription year 1720. There is also an old bell at the right side of the church with the inscription, "This bell was manufactured for the monastery of Our Lady of Gia by the chief captain Decia, the chief executive of the city of Macau in 1707, and remodeled in 1824. The Church of the Mother of God is the indispensable part of the history of Macau's Catholic Church. The church was first built in 1580 but was destroyed by fire in 1595 and 1601 respectively. In 1602, the church was rebuilt and was completed in 1637. The 68 steps in front of the church were constructed at a later date. The church experienced its third fire hazard in the evening of 26 January 1835. The whole church was burned down, leaving only the grand facade, which has remained until today. It is the most well-known heritage in Macau, the ruins of St. Paul's. This church is a fusion of the Renaissance and the Oriental architecture. It combines the culture of the East and West with exquisite carvings by craftsmen from Portugal, China, and Japan. The facade is made of stone with carvings designed by the Jesuits. It is a combination of the Baroque style and Chinese style architecture. From 1990 to 1995, The government carried out the renovation work at the site of the former church and a museum was established, treasuring the emblematic paintings, sculptures, and liturgical objects from churches and monasteries in Macau, including the relics of the martyrs from countries like Japan and Vietnam. During the 16th century, the Jesuits founded a number of schools. One of them was the renowned St. Paul's College, which was a European-style university in the Far East. The college undertook the mission to educate missionaries for the entire Far East. Therefore, European missionaries had to first study in St. Paul's College before they could preach in the Far East region, like China and Japan. Unfortunately, after the fire in 1835, the college was destroyed, and only the front part of the church was left to be appreciated. The ruins of St. Paul's is regarded as the landmark of Macau. It is a religious spot as well as a tourist destination. The grand facade can also represent the spirit of the Catholic Church, which is equally persistent and everlasting.